Good morning. Welcome to the Windsor Star News Cafe. I'm Don McArthur here with Dylan Kristy and our special guest. You know him, you love him perhaps, Al Maghnieh. You've heard of him. He's running in Ward 10. He's the incumbent.
It's good to be here. Thanks.
Welcome. All right, well, I guess it's the elephant in the room. We got to address it while we can. But the library credit card scandal, there was, well, you probably know better, but I think it was $14,000 in expenses. A large part of it was personal. Let me get it, it's not fair. 8,400 of that personal expenses. Have those all been paid back?
Yes.
They have?
Yes.
Now you're going door to door right now. Are you talking to residents? Is that something that you do find comes up often as you're talking to people in Ward 10?
Not as often. Generally the number one thing comes up are, number one things that come up are, the issues that are most relevant to the ward. So, when you talk about infrastructure like Northwood and Dominion, we're doing a let merge. You talk about taxation, utility costs, respective neighborhood issues, and then as you read in Ann's column last Friday, which I thought was very accurately reflected, that from time to time it will come up. Sometimes it comes up in a bit of more of a zinger type thing, or if it just comes up politely. But regardless, if I'm talking to someone about issues, I raise the issue as well because I think it's something that needs to be confronted head on. I think it's fair for residents to have that opportunity to hold me accountable, not just by vote, but by having them at their doorstep.
So let's just go back because you blew the money, the 14 grand. The integrity commissioner said you knowingly and recklessly sort of disregarded the rules, although you didn't do anything criminal. How do we know you're not going to knowingly and recklessly disregard sort of the rules again?
Well, that's a very good question, and I appreciate you raising that. Everything that had happened was absolutely a nightmare for my family, my constituents, and myself, and it's something that absolutely will never happen again. It was really, really, really bad judgment at the time, and if I can tell you anything, if I've learned any harsh lessons, this is one of them that would never ever be repeated. And the price that my family and my constituents paid for that is something that I would never want to happen ever again. Nothing remotely close to it.
Okay. Because the thing last time, it wasn't, in this instance, it wasn't even necessarily the spending of the money that outraged people, but it was the drip, drip, drip,
it was the drip
of the revelations after,
Yep.
You would come say, I've come clean, I've told you everything, and then
It's
a day
kind of
later,
like
boom,
the old
the
death
yoga
by a
pants,
thousand cuts, right?
Yeah.
For the
So
record, there was never any
you were
yoga
dishonest
pants, but, yeah.
when you were apologizing.
Well, and
I guess how can we know you're being honest now?
And the thing is, and I know again, I appreciate you raising these types of things because this is what people want to hear, is that at that time, I handled this thing very wrong. I mishandled it. It was just all wrong. It was all panicked. If you can imagine the outrage that was happening, it was just a really, really harsh time, and I didn't know how to handle it. And I just, at that point, I guess my inexperience showed, and it was regretful. But having gone through all of that, having learned the hard way, again, it's something that will never, ever happen again. Nothing remotely close to that will ever happen again.
Okay. No, it's something I'm still not clear on. Down in the depths of sort of when all that was going on, you promised that you were going to pay for an audit, to see where all of this
Sure.
money went and how it was
Sure.
done. But then sort of there's some back and forth, and I'm still not clear. It's all been resolved now, but it took a statement of claim by the library board filed against you to sort of resolve the situation.
And
so have you paid back the $20,000 plus cost of the audit?
And I wish I could give you the answer that you want to hear.
It's not just me that wants to hear it.
And residents. But I've been put under a confidentiality agreement by the library board to not discuss the matter.
You agreed to this.
Now, wait. Yes,
nobody can
but
force
that
you
was
to
the
sign a
that was the terms of a settlement. So
yeah, but
I
if
wanted
you
a
pay
settlement.
if you pay the 20 grand, there's nothing to settle.
I paid the amount that they settled on, and I can't disclose the amount.
Did you pay for the legal fees to get that settlement? Because who bore those costs?
Well, I bore legal fee. I bore a cost
the library
as well.
lawyers.
Well, you're gonna have to ask the library.
George
you're gonna
King,
have to ask the
please come
library.
on.
Yeah, well, please do. I mean, you're gonna have these are questions that I think.
But you understand
need
where
to
I'm
ask their
coming from. If
library.
you say you're going to pay the audit, and then they have to sue you to get you to pay the audit, and you guys come up with a confidentiality
Well, there was
clause
terms.
and a settlement,
Well, there was
you didn't
terms.
honor your promise.
Well, that's not true. There were terms that if you wanted me to pay the library audit, then there were terms that needed to be satisfied with respect to my side. You can't just write a blank check, okay? So there was disagreement. There was disagreement. Well, can I at least know where the costs come from? Can I at least know how many hours? Can I at least know who and what and so on. You know, those are the types of things that at the time I was asking, and those terms weren't being met. Now, through negotiations and discussions, and you know what, sometimes you have to play hardball, and they played hardball, which is fine. But at the end of the day, we reached a settlement that was mutual to both parties. And if there are details that you want more, I would ask you to reach out to the library board, reach out to their lawyer and ask them, because I've been put into a confidentiality agreement that was one of the main terms of the settlement. So, but at the end of the day, I've done every single thing I can possibly do to put this matter to rest and to satisfy every party. And the last party right now are the voters of Ward 10, and that's why I'm at their door.
Okay. Speaking of confidentiality.
Yeah, one thing that you say you're not allowed to really divulge right now, you are working for what you call a major electronics company.
That's right.
Now, it's pretty rare for a candidate to run and us not know who their employer is.
Yeah.
Is there any reason that you can't say?
Yeah, there's definitely a reason. So, you know, I've disclosed some of my other employers, like Kank Freight System, for example, and you know, I have other contracts as well. But there's one in particular that they just basically said, we're a major company, we don't get involved in politics, we don't engage in political activity, and we don't want our name to come up in the political crossfire. And I have to respect that. I think it's fair.
Well, but that doesn't make any sense. Is it the CIA? I mean, like,
no, it's not the CIA. But you know what? If you had a company that is publicly traded and does
political process by employing someone who's running for office or is an
well, at the same time, they don't want their name to pop up in news feeds that's heavily involved in politics. And so, you know what? That's their wish.
Given everything that you've been through, it looks a little dodgy.
I guess you could say that. I mean, but the reality is, that's what the employer wants, and it's what pays my bills and puts food on the table. And you know what? I'm not going to jeopardize that. You know, when I worked for the Catholic School Board and I was heavily embroiled into the library stuff, you know, unfortunately, that caught up and I had to leave my job there, and because I couldn't do my job there. So, you know, at the end of the day, I want to be able to protect my employer from and shield them from all this political stuff, and they want to do that as well. So, like I said, I have more than one company that I work with. Some of them don't mind, some of them do.
So are you on the payroll of this company, or is it a contract?
Contract.
You're on a contract with this company, so you don't. Okay. On a per job basis, on a per day basis, they pay you so per job. This mysterious company
per project.
pays you. Okay. And are you working on a project for them now?
Finishing one up, yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. All right. Well, then let's just hear. What are you hearing from the door on your website? Or did you want?
No, I just want to say, man, for all of this, thank you for answering these questions.
Sure.
But it does take, and people are talking about this off camera and stuff. It takes a lot of guts, a lot of stones, man, to go knock on doors, given everything that you've been through, to face this barrage of questions. You know, I don't know if I would certainly want to do it. I might go off and slink away. So
this is
it takes
what elections
guts.
are about.
It takes, you know, some people might have another term for it, but whatever.
It was on the front page of the Star.
It was on the front page of the Star. It was multiple times. So anyway, you're out there, you're knocking on doors, you're staring this in the face. So kudos to you for that.
Thanks.
And I suppose if you win re-election, tabula rasa, clean slate. I don't know. So anyways, I just want to say it takes guts. And Dylan, like, what are you hearing? What are they saying?
Well, no, that's it too. Like, we can't really beat you up if you do get elected. You put in your time. You went out there. And the best thing you can do is knock on doors. You're getting out there. Ann Jarvis, we mentioned, has written a column on that. What are you hearing? What are the issues?
Well, so the top issues on voters' minds are, you know, and this is, you know, no particular order, but in my ward in particular, it's infrastructure. It's Northwood and Dominion. I mean, you drive down Northwood and Dominion and you see during peak times in the mornings and later afternoon when school comes out, or even on Fridays when, you know, the mosque is having their prayers, it is absolute complete gridlock. You know, you got cars parked on both sides of Dominion, both sides of Northwood, absolute jam traffic. There's no turning capacity. It's a very outdated intersection. Dominion is very outdated. And this isn't something that just happened overnight. This is something that's been accumulating over the last 10, 15 years because that whole neighborhood's been growing. And so I've proposed a solution to that, and I'm calling for the widening of Dominion. Sorry, not the widening of Dominion, I shouldn't say that. The widening of Northwood from both sides, adding more turning capacity, building a new arterial road on Alexandra, which is open parcels of land that the city had acquired a long time ago to meet the growth of the community. And I'd like to get that moving forward. It's part of the environmental assessment process of the central box. And so a lot of people hear me say central box, and what that is, it's where Dougal and Olette merge. That's another huge issue in my ward. That's the gateway to South Windsor. And in that gateway, it's where Dougal and Olette merge exactly. It's very tight. There's no sidewalks. There's no bike lanes. You may see people sometimes try to ride their bike through there or trying to jog through there because they want to get to downtown. So there's actually no real way to get from South Windsor to downtown without having to go through that nightmare. So a lot of people call it the death trap. So it's dealing with that. So we've secured the environmental assessment to get us transportation network options and how we can fix that, fix Northwood and Dominion, do Ojibwe extension. So those are the main infrastructure issues that come up in my ward. Other than that, you get property taxation at the door, you get utility costs, and those are things that we need to confront. As I tell people as many times as we possibly can, we've actually held the line on taxes, on property taxes for the last 4 years. Is it something that we can do for the next 4 years? We'll definitely give it our best to try. Definitely at least for the next year to do it again. I'm hearing good things about from hopefully both mayoral candidates, both front-running candidates, that they want to freeze the NWIN rates and freeze the sewer surcharge. So that will bring relief to working families. I think it's very important. And those are the top issues of mine. Now, I have some other ideas. I don't know if maybe this is the time to kind of throw them out, but.
Wait, he was front and center on the Windsor Hum file forever. He did some great work there. Zalev's still there, though. That's still a nice store in the middle of the city, and I seem to recall you campaigned pretty heavily on that one.
And here's the thing with Zalev, and I get this at the door sometimes, and I think some of my opponents like to remind me of it, which is great. I'm glad that as many times as people can bring this up. I campaigned heavily on Zalev. I campaigned on the prospect of relocation. I'm upset that we can't relocate the scrapyard, and here's why. I mean, this isn't just a thing that, everybody promises but never delivers. But actually, in 2010, in late 2009 and in 2010, even when this election campaign was going on back then, the scrapyard was in discussions with the city of Windsor on a potential willing buyer, willing seller. And the city was putting together a report with contractors on how we can do an overall assessment to find what it's worth, what the environmental cleanup would be, what's the impact on the community, and so on and so forth. But we never ended up getting that far because the company all of a sudden walked away from the table. And it was almost as if like, if you want me, come and get me. Because I'm not going to sell you, because we'll make more money if you expropriate us. And, expropriation would be to the tune of almost $130 million. $130 million, you can build 3 aquatic centers, or 1.5 maybe. But, that's a lot of money. And I can't justify going to the taxpayer for $130 million to remove the scrapyard. Now, having said that, there's something very important that needs to come out about this, is that for the last number of years, there has been an environmental order on the scrapyard. And what that is from the Ministry of the Environment, what that is whenever it rains or snows and that melts, all that water, the wastewater, goes into the Grand Mayor's drain, which is very wrong, which is awful. And so what the Ministry of the Environment has done is they've issued an order for them to have a water retention pond and a water retention plant on their own site. So or water treatment plant on their own site. So retain the water, treat it, then dispose of it. And then some more environmental testing needs to take place. So that's something that's underway. I think they're meeting their obligations, or they're about to meet their obligations. And if that's the case, then at least it makes it a tiny bit less impactful on the environment.
I don't know, for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Al Maghnieh, thanks for joining us. He's running in Ward 10.
Can I add one more thing?
One more thing. Yeah, go ahead.
There's been a lot of talk about having a debate in this ward.
Uh-huh.
And you know what? I'm going to challenge my opponents right now. Every one of them, even the one that was here previous, including Mr. Borelli, who was here.
Mr. Paul Borelli, yeah, okay.
Who was here earlier and claimed a lot of things about knowing about the ward. That we're going to get streetlights on Daytona this week. By the way, he talked about that. And there's 11 health clinics in the ward, because if he lived in the ward, he would know that a lot of things are happening in the ward, but he doesn't. But that's fine. I'm willing to debate any of my opponents any day of the week. I've been asking them for the last 2 weeks. Let's have a debate. You know what? I'll host it. Just show up.
Maybe we could even host it here.
Let's have it here. Let's have it here.
We'll
Okay.
set the
Right here.
venue. You pick the time.
Let's try to do that. What the heck? We're having the mayor's debate here, of course, next Wednesday.
Let's
So
have a Ward 10
let's-
debate.
let's-
I'll
let's-
be here.
Excellent.
Okay, and I just want to say he's knocked on nearly 4,000 doors in the ward. He's coming to a door near you. Al Maghnieh, running for re-election in Ward 10. This has been Trail Talk in the Windsor Star News Cafe.